These are 29 minis of Clash Mini, and today they are going to be competing against each other in a 1v1 test. In the first round, we have the P.E.K.K.A facing against the Bandit. The P.E.K.K.A lands one critical hit and then finishes the first round with a normal attack on the Bandit. On the second round, the P.E.K.K.A goes for 100% crit accuracy, while the Bandit goes for the stun upgrade. The P.E.K.K.A lands 2 hits before the Bandit dashes away with 1 HP left. Then the P.E.K.K.A chases the Bandit down, but the Bandit is finished by the reflection damage. In the second round, we have the Archer facing up against the Barbarian. The Archer lands 1 hit on the Barbarian before the Barbarian finally managing to connect towards the Archer. And after that, the Archer couldn't sustain the DPS from the Barbarian anymore. In the second round, the Barbarian gets the hit speed upgrade, while all the Archer abilities are useless except the first one, which would actually harm the Archer. And again, with good damage and fast hit speed, the Barbarian manages to take up the win in the second game. In the third game, we saw Fire vs Ice, where both the Wizards collided with each other, where the slow of the Ice Wizard was quite effective on the Wizard, but the Wizard dealt 2 damage while the Ice Wizard dealt only 1 damage, and so the winner of the game was obvious. It turned out to be the Wizard. In the second round, the Ice Wizard goes for the extra slow, while the Wizard goes for the burn damage, and in this battle of Fire and Ice, Fire overcame Ice and ended up being victorious. In the fourth game, we saw the 2 healers battle out each other. Both of them aren't really the best at dealing damage, but they are really good at keeping them at full HP. And since the battle healer has more HP than the healing ranger, the battle healer won the battle of healing. In the second round, the healing ranger goes for the extra healing, while the battle healer goes for the block ability. The block ability prevented the battle healer from getting damaged by the healing ranger, and once again, because sheer strength of more health, the battle healer once again ended up being victorious. In the fifth game, we saw the mini P.E.K.K.A facing against the Musketeer. The Musketeer was doing well against the mini P.E.K.K.A in the first round. The mini P.E.K.K.A was about to take down the Musketeer, but she protected herself with the help of the knockback. But once the stun was over, it was game over for the Musketeer. In the second round, the mini P.E.K.K.A goes for the Dissipate, and this literally crushed all the hopes and dreams for the Musketeer. In the sixth game, we saw the Dagger Goblin facing against the Mega Knight. Things didn't go well for the Dagger Goblin because he was never really able to use his Insidious ability. Also, the stun and bulk of Mega Knight overwhelmed him. In the second round, the Mega Knight goes for the Dark Armor, while the Dagger Goblin was in a little cheaty mood. He turns invisible, sending the Mega Knight to the Shield Maidens and securing the win in the second round. In the third round, the Mega Knight goes on a redemption arc by first stunning the Dagger Goblin, and once he was invisible, Mega Knight goes for the Shield Maiden, but in sudden death, the cheater had to lose. In the seventh game, we had the Lumberjack facing the Electro Wizard. The Lumberjack only has 8 HP, so after 4 hits, the Lumberjack loses the first round. In the second round, the Lumberjack goes for the Clash ability, while the Evis goes for the initial energy. The Electro Wizard uses super after 3 hits and then stuns the Lumberjack and finally finishes him with one more attack. In the next game, we had the Golden Giant facing up against the Witch. The Witch easily manages to win the first round because of her skeletons. In the second round, the Golden Giant goes for stun heal, while the Witch goes for more skeletons. The skeletons did an awesome job, but felt a little short for defeating the Golden Giant. The third round goes to sudden death, where Golden Giant's insane healing power allowed him to overcome the skeleton's damage and win this game. Next up, we saw the Miner facing against the Giant Skeleton. The Giant Skeleton has nothing going for him except the KO bomb drop, while the Miner has good DPS, and so in the end, the Miner manages to win both the games pretty easily against the Giant Skeleton. In the next game, we saw the Swordsman facing the Magic Archer. The Magic Archer did a good chunk of damage to the Swordsman, but as soon as the Swordsman got his super, it was game over for the Magic Archer. In the next round, the Magic Archer goes for the triple shot while the Swordsman goes for +3 strikes. The Magic Archer landed a triple shot, but that wasn't enough and Swordsman was the winner. In Game 11, Fisherman pulls the Valkyrie, but the Valkyrie has a great DPS and Fisherman has a pathetic one, and so the winner was obvious. Then the Fisherman goes for the stun upgrade, which did something, but it wasn't obviously enough to stop Valkyrie from getting the win. For the 12th game, we saw the 2 cost tanks fight each other, where in the first round, the Knight wasn't even able to break Guard's shield until the frenzy mode, and so the result was pretty obvious. Guard was the winner. In the second game, the Knight goes for the shield upgrade while the Guard goes for extra shield, and this game went really close, but at the end during the sudden death, the Knight managed to win the game by 1 HP. In round 3, the other upgrades for both of them were useless, and so in the end, the Knight manages to win the matchup because he has way more HP than the Guard. In the final game of this set, we saw the Spear Goblin facing up against the Bowler. The Bowler absolutely dominated over the Spear Goblin by one-shotting him in both of the rounds. We started with 29 minis and now we only have 16 minis left, and this is the bracket for this set. Starting the second set, we have the Barbarian facing up against the P.E.K.K.A. The Barbarian tries to scratch P.E.K.K.A's armor, but in the meantime, he gets two-shotted by the P.E.K.K.A. In the second round, the Barbarian goes for extra health while the P.E.K.K.A goes for 100% crit accuracy, and again the P.E.K.K.A manages to two-shot the Barbarian. In the second game, we saw the Wizard facing against the Battle Healer. Here in the first round, the Wizard was completely overwhelmed by the healing of the Battle Healer, and the Battle Healer was the winner in the first round. In the second round, we saw the Wizard using the anti-heal against the Battle Healer, while the Battle Healer goes for the block ability. The block ability allows the Battle Healer to get some value out of her super, even with the anti-heal, and that was enough for the Battle Healer to win the round once again and move on. In the third game, Mega Knight faces the Mini P.E.K.K.A. Even though the Mega Knight has a great chunk of health and the capability to stun the Mini P.E.K.K.A, in the end the Mini P.E.K.K.A has a great DPS and that carries him in the first round. In this round, the Dark Armor did allow the Mega Knight to at least gain some energy, but the process was really slow, and once the clock hits frenzy mode, the Mega Knight got eaten by the Mini P.E.K.K.A. In the fourth game, we saw the Electro Wizard facing against the Golden Giant. In the first round, the Electro Wizard in general has a greater DPS than the Golden Giant and a decent chunk of health too, and so in the end the winner was Electro Wizard. In the second round, the Golden Giant goes for the stun healing while the Electro Wizard chooses extra stun, and because of all the healing and good chunk of health, the Golden Giant ended up being victorious in the sudden death. In the third round, we again saw the stuff repeat itself, and here because Electro Wizard was getting super way quicker, the more did the Golden Giant heal, and in the end the Golden Giant ended up being victorious. In the fifth game, we saw the Miner facing against the Swordsman, and here Swordsman completely destroyed the Miner because he was completely isolated. In the next round, the Miner goes for Dissipate, which prevented the Swordsman to use his super, but the Miner loses in the competition of health and DPS in general, so the Swordsman ended up winning the matchup too. On our sixth game, the Bowler faces against the Valkyrie and he connects his Clash ability dealing damage and stunning her, preventing her from stacking up initially. And in the end, the Bowler barely manages to win the matchup. In the second round, the Bowler goes for extra damage while all the Valkyrie abilities are completely useless. This game went a little more close, but in the end, the Bowler again manages to win with the help of his Clash ability. On the seventh game, the Knight faces the Dart Goblin. The Knight taunts the Dart Goblin, but it wasn't going to do anything. On the other hand, the Dart Goblin was slowly stacking up, and so in the end, he manages to win the first round. In the second round, we saw the Knight going for the extra taunt duration just to protect himself from the Breaker ability, while the Dart Goblin goes for infinite stack, and so in the end, the Dart Goblin again stacked up and he easily won against the slow Knight. In the final game of this set, we saw the Prince facing up against the Royal Ghost. The Prince charges on the Royal Ghost, dealing 8 damage and cancelling his Clash ability, and then he finishes him with one final attack. In the next round, Prince goes for the first upgrade and instantly finishes the round. With this, we now only have 8 contestants remaining, and let's find out who is gonna win. Starting off set 3, we saw the Battle Healer facing up against the P.E.K.K.A. The P.E.K.K.A on the first round lands 2 normal hits and a critical one to win the first round with an ease. And by tanking full 4 hits from the P.E.K.K.A, the Battle Healer wasn't able to stand anymore, meaning the P.E.K.K.A was the first semi-finalist. In the second game, we had the Mini P.E.K.K.A facing against the Golden Giant. The Golden Giant tries his very best against the Mini P.E.K.K.A, but because Mini P.E.K.K.A has way greater DPS, he was able to win the first round. In the second round, Mini P.E.K.K.A goes for the Dissipate while the Golden Giant goes for Rampage ability. The Dissipate was so strong that he never allowed the Golden Giant to get a super. Although the Rampage ability did provide a little ray of hope, but in the end, the Mini P.E.K.K.A was the second semi-finalist. In the third game, the Bowler once again stuns the Swordsman and deals 8 damage, but once the stun was over, the Swordsman finally got his super, and it really was game over for the Bowler. On the next round, the Bowler goes for extra damage while the Swordsman goes for extra strikes, and once again the Bowler stuns and deals damage, but in the end the Swordsman gets his super and gets the job done. The fourth and the final game of this set, where the Prince facing up against the Dart Goblin. The Prince knocks the Dart Goblin to the back and then finishes him with one more attack. In the next round, the Prince one-shots the Dart Goblin simply. Now we are down to our final 4 contestants. In the first game of the semi-finals, Mini P.E.K.K.A faces the P.E.K.K.A. The P.E.K.K.A gets 1 critical hit and 1 normal hit and finishes the Mini P.E.K.K.A easily. In the next round, the Mini P.E.K.K.A was playing for 40% odds while the P.E.K.K.A two-shots the Mini P.E.K.K.A. For the second game of the semi-final, the Prince charges on the Swordsman and stuns him. He manages to connect 2 hits before the Swordsman wakes up from the stun, but it was too late and the Prince finishes him with one last attack. And the same story goes for the second round too. We started with 29 minis and now we only have 2 minis left, the P.E.K.K.A and the Prince. In the first round, the Prince throws the P.E.K.K.A to the back and stuns him. The Prince lands 2 hits on the P.E.K.K.A before the P.E.K.K.A wakes up, but then the P.E.K.K.A lands 1 critical hit and finishes the game with 1 final hit. In the second round, the prince goes for the pony while the P.E.K.K.A sticks with 100% crit accuracy. Once again, the P.E.K.K.A takes down the prince in 2 attacks, but then the pony, the real goat, keeps the P.E.K.K.A stun locked and wins the game. And finally, in the third round, the P.E.K.K.A activates plot armor with the help of the unstoppable, preventing the knockback and two-shotting the prince. The pony lands one single attack, but because of the unstoppable, he fails to stun lock the P.E.K.K.A. And then the P.E.K.K.A finishes the pony with another attack. And now P.E.K.K.A is officially the champion of 1v1 mini tournament.